If I was to be young again, your age, and let's say, for example, that I had friends at school or in my neighborhood taking drugs, I would not throw a stone at them, but the number one thing that I would do would be to go far from them. Do you understand? I had friends who were taking drugs for many years, and I was hanging with them every day. And I used to tell myself, I will never do this. That's what I used to tell myself. And you know what? One day I ended up doing the very thing that I had promised myself never to do. I knew cigarettes were wrong, and one day I ended up by lighting my first cigarette. Same thing with other things. Same thing with alcohol. So if you have a friend taking it, please go away from him. Take a distance, because sometimes you're not even able to counsel that person. Sometimes you're not in the position of advising. It's hard for us people to receive advices from people the same age mate. If, for example, you're 14 and your schoolmate of 14 is coming to advise you, it's rare that we listen to them. What I would do today, if I was 14 and I see a friend or a classmate taking drugs or taking vaporizer, what I would do, I would go and report to the school. Not because I hate this kid, but because I love the kid. Do you understand? Sometimes it looks like as if we go and report, it's as if we hate those people. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. And again, sometimes you kind of act as if you're protecting your people, the kids you hang around with, and you cover them with their mistakes, but you don't know what's ahead of them in the future. And sometimes you might find yourself in a position where you regret that you did not report what they were doing at that time. Why? Because they're destroyed. And so in the name of the rights of kids, I was permitted to do a lot of things. And the more I grew up, and the further I went away from my parents. And I wasn't doing well at school. Why? Because I was the type of kid who always wanted to be popular. I didn't want to go unrecognized. I wasn't the type of kid who just wanted to be there in class and perform in class and not be noticed. So I was the guy who crack up jokes, while others try to study. And people would laugh at me. People would laugh, people would smile. But at the same time, my behavior was becoming an issue. So I remember at the age of 12, I was sent to a psychologist because I had a behavior problem. And so I remember going to the psychologist about 3 times, and then I rebelled. I refused to go back. I was very angry at my parents. There was a behavior issue with me. My parents, because parents love us, were fearing for what was going to happen in the future. So they wanted to deal with the issue when I was still young. I stopped school. I joined the wrong crowds again. And this time it was not about stealing 2,000. This time it was stealing a lot of money. Why? Because drug had come in, cigarette, women, you name it. And at this point I was becoming uncontrollable. And eventually I started moving from country to countries. I went to different, African countries and thinking that my life would be better there. So the problem was, I always thought or viewed my failures as a result of other people. When you're trying to blame everybody except yourself? So that's who I was. I was the guy who blamed everybody. I was blaming my father for my mistakes. I could find excuses. Why did they send me to France anyway? I never asked to go there. Why did they send me to a boarding school? And anytime something wrong would happen to me, I was always blaming other people. Blaming my mom, blaming my siblings. It was never about me. And so from 2011 up to today, I've been traveling nations with the same message. Guys, pull the brake. Pull the brake before you pay the price. It's not what it seems. It does not bring any added value to your life. You don't need to smoke vaporizer to be cool. That's not true. Who says that? It's not true. You don't need to prove anything to nobody, especially if this person is driving you in the wrong direction. You don't need to do that, because the price to pay is very heavy. I told you how I lost my dream of playing basketball because of that. I told you how I lost most of my loved ones. I thank God today we are reunited again. But I have many friends of mine who died. They passed away.
If you're addicted, how can you stop taking drugs? Because it is hard to stop.
When you are addicted, when you're into drugs, it's similar to somebody who's sick. You need to speak out to people who love you. Adults, you need to reach out because they care. Because when you tell your parents or the adults you live with that you're sick, it's not just that you want to inform them that you're sick. You want them to do something about it, right? Is it? It's the same thing. You know, we can make a wrong choice. Yes, we have done it. That's the past. You cannot change the past, but you can change your future. Do you understand? The fact that I took drugs or alcohol and I was addict for it for many years doesn't define my future. At some point I had to say, I did a lot of mistakes, I messed up big time, but I can build a future. It doesn't have to get stuck with me. So I looked for help. I was an adult, I wasn't a young kid. So I went to people I could look up to. And sometimes it was through a prayer that I was saved. You understand? So you cannot keep it as a secret. You know what the devil does? The devil will come to your ears and will tell you not to tell the people who love you the most. That's what the devil does. Anytime you're doing something wrong, the devil will always try to push the people who can help you away from you. That's what he does. So anytime the thought comes into your mind, for example, that I'm going to share this with your parents, and then you come to your friends and you tell them what you're about to do, mostly the answer will be like, don't tell them. That's exactly the opposite of what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to tell them because they are the people who care. Who else loves you more than your parents? God, that's the only one. But physically speaking, your parents count. And they have more answers than you. So you need to go and speak to them.
Definitely, this session was eye-opening because we always hear, don't do drugs, they're bad. But we didn't know why they're bad in the essence. But then getting a testimony of people who are still alive, who are talking to you and telling you this is how we went from A to Z, it opens up your eyes and you're like, okay, actually, these are the reasons why, the real reasons why people shouldn't be doing drugs. And that is helpful to those who do drugs because they feel encouraged to stop, but even for those who haven't involved themselves into that yet, so that they're like, okay, I'm gonna back off like big time from this thing. So yeah, I think that's that.
I've picked up a few lessons. So the first lesson is like to always have hope. Any problem has a solution, and just like the proverb says, there's always a light at the front of the tunnel. And second, it was always seek for help, because thinking first that you know best is the first mistake and the first path to the downfall. And third is make some effort to reach out to people as well. Don't keep it to you. The moment you keep it to yourself, that's the quickest way to fall.
Be your friend's keeper. Help them. How are you going to help them? He explained very well how you can help them. And your questions also were asked in the right direction. And we believe that this session will change the life of our students.